In this session, today we'll be learning about central nervous system. The nervous system. What is the functional unit of nervous system? It's actually neurons, right? So there are the connections of many different neurons, billions of neurons to form nervous system. So what are neurons? The neurons are actually its structure. If you look at the structures, it looks like something like this. Okay, I just make roughly a figure diagram. Okay, and many neurons are like connected through its junction. There are many junctions in the neurons. For example, this is neuron number 1 and this is neuron number 2. And the impulse, impulse. The impulse actually travels from one neuron to another neuron from neurotransmitters. Okay, so suppose this is where our impulse may travel by creating a potential, stopping potential. First is potential is developed. In resting phase, inside is minus, outside is plus. So this is not important, but what I just wanted you to know is there are many neurons which comprise of nervous systems, and these neurons are interconnected with each other, and the information or the impulse actually travels from one neuron to another neuron in the form of action potential through neurotransmitters and all. They are not interconnected. Okay, they are just, there is some space over here. Okay, in mammals there is some space over here, and there are some neurotransmitters. So these neurotransmitters are just transmitted from one end to another one. So you probably know the parts of the neuron, right? So there is nucleus, and this is cell body, right? So this is cell body, these are dendrites, and this is axon. So I hope you already know this part. So this is what a nervous system is. So our nervous system is divided into three parts. One is central nervous system, second one is peripheral, and third one autonomous nervous system. But what actually important in this level is central nervous system. Okay, so central nervous system comprises of two parts. Our central nervous system is comprised of two parts, and that is one brain, okay, and there is one spinal cord. This is what, and spinal cord is the just a part of a brain. This is elongation. If this is a brain, I suppose if this is a brain, and spinal cord is continued from medulla oblongata, and this is what it looks like. Okay, and yeah, now and from each brain, so from brain there are many knobs that arises from brain. Okay, and such knobs are called cranial knobs. And there are, you can see, as you can see here also, there are different knobs that are arising from the spinal cords. Okay, so these are just on what spinal knobs. So this is spinal cord, and the knobs arising from here are just spinal knobs. We can say spinal knobs. So our brain and spinal cord forms the major central nervous system. Okay, and there are knobs that arises from brain and spinal cords which control the various parts of the body, and such direct knobs that arises from brain and spinal cord are comprises that forms or constitute our peripheral nervous system. Okay, so these things and these things, they are together form peripheral nervous system. This is not important that we don't have to go into details, and this is what I'm just saying the first slide. These brain is what is the most delicate organ in our human body. It is the center of intelligence. It is what is all controlling you, right? So it must be protected. It must be protected. So it must be protected, right? So it is where it is present inside the skull through various layers. For example, look at here. See, this is skull. So this is skull, and inside the skull there is brain, and it is what is protected by many layers of many layers. Such layers are called meninges. So this is a very important one. It is very soft organ, right? Since it is very soft, it must be protected from any shocks, any shocks or any harm, injury, right? So there are many layers. So let's talk about this layer from inside to outside. From the inside to outside, we can see first one is pyometer, okay? So this pyometer, which is the innermost layer and is directly attached to the brain, okay? The question can be framed in many ways. And the second is middle layer is arachnoid matter, and the last layer is dura matter from inside to outside, okay? From outside to inside, it goes like dura matter, arachnoid matter, and pyometer, okay? So the outermost layer is which is directly connected to the bone of skull is dura mater, right? So dura mater is directly connected to the bone of skull, and between dura mater and arachnoid matter, between arachnoid matter and dura mater, and there is a subarachnoid space. There are also spaces, epidural space, subdural, but this is not, we are not concerned about this, but we are concerned about this. Why? Because in this space there is special fluid which is called cerebrospinal fluid. I'm writing a CSF. What does it stand for? Cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, so cerebrospinal fluid lies in the subarachnoid space. You know, sub means inner to arachnoid. You know, inner to arachnoid is like, actually there is arachnoid matter, and there is between arachnoid matter and pyometer there is subarachnoid space which lie where there is found is CFS. Since it's a fluid, it must have a function as it protects your brain, okay, from shocks, or shocks observer. It acts as shock observant, shock observant. So this is what is the main function of cerebrospinal fluid. So it is also protective in nature, okay? So we are done about meninges. Now let's talk about brain. Brain, this is what is brain looks like in from the top section view, from the very top view, okay? And the brain comprises of two hemispheres, and left hemisphere and right hemisphere. And the brain is, actually the brain weighs around, if we just talk about it, around 1.5 kg, and these are like 100 billions neurons and comprises brain. So it's a very important one, but you don't need to remember these values. I mean, I want to just give a general information. And the two hemispheres of the brains. Oh, first one is left hemisphere and right. So do you wonder how these two hemispheres are connected with each other? These two different hemispheres, okay? If you just got there, we can find the two literal two hemispheres, okay? So how these two hemispheres are interconnected with each other? How? Just wonder, okay? Think. How can you say that? How might be these two hemispheres are interconnected? So these are two especially connected by a structure known as corpus callosum. Look at this. So I'm just brought here a cartoonic version of photo. This is not the actual how brain looks like, and this is what is, I just wanted to know, this corpus callosum which connects the two hemispheres of the brain, okay? So this is what is corpus callosum. Corpus callosum, it is what is it connects the two hemispheres and hemispheres of the brain, okay? So this is we done about the brain, basic intro, right? So let's talk about parts of brain. So we can majorly divide brain into two categories, okay? In one is uh, from part wise, or we can say from function wise, and there's from lobe wise, okay? If on the basis of function, so we have divided this part on the basis of function, okay? On the basis of function, or on the basis of just many structures provided. So first one is forebrain. The forebrain is further divided into three parts. If you look carefully, or if you just, the forebrain is just further divided into two parts. What is this? This is first one is olfactory lobe, okay? And the second one is, what's the second one? Cerebrum. This is important. We are going to discuss about this. And third one is, what's the third one? Olfactory lobe, cerebrum. And third one is diencephalon, okay? So diencephalon. We don't need to know anything about olfactory lobe or diencephalon. So what our syllabus is, we just know the functions of parts of brain and their functions, okay? The functions are only concerned in the examinations, okay? If they ask from the question, if any question is framed, that is most the probability of the questions is from the functions of parts of brain, okay? So what we are most concerned about is this function. So we are just learning the functions of different structures that is present in the brain, okay? So we'll be learning about this function of cerebellum as well. So this is a midbrain. We don't need to know in just detail, just know there's also midbrain, which is a part of brain. Okay. And there is third one, lastly, it's a hindbrain. So hindbrain is also very important because it's also consists three parts. So one is what is one is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. Second one is we call pons varoli. Okay. And lastly, which is called cerebellum. This is also very important structure. Cerebellum. We're just going to learn about the functions of these things. Okay. So okay. Now, what I've done till now is we just classify brain into three parts. One is forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. And this also forebrain comprises of the forebrain. We can also classify the forebrain. One is olfactory lobe, and the second one is cerebellum, and the third one is diencephalon. And we don't need to learn any more details on midbrain. And hindbrain is comprised of medulla oblongata, pons varoli. And you just remember the names, okay? So, and also very one important point is the midbrain plus hindbrain. You see these two structures, right? So these two structures togetherly forms a brainstem. Okay, so this is a very important one. So brainstem is nothing but it is what is midbrain plus hindbrain. Do you know brainstem? Stem is actually when you look in the when you look at the tree, what does the stem of a tree does? The stem of a tree does is what it does is it just supports the whole, it carries the load of the whole the upper parts of the tree, right? So this is what is, it must be very flexible, sorry, very strong, very hard, or very worthy to not worthy the actual word, but still it must be responsible, right? Because it's the fate, it's fate. The stem's function is just to support the whole body and travel the food materials from roots to the stem, okay, right? Or this from the leaves to the roots, okay, through phloem. That's why the framework, since it is also like a mid and hindbrain also is like brain stem, it's just supporting the whole, this, if you just analogous to tree, if you just give an analogous to, it's just what is it doing, it's just acting as a stem for the brain part of the upper part, right? So midbrain is plus hindbrain is referred to as a brain stem. So this is what is important, okay? On the basis of lobes, we have classified the brain into different categories as well, and this is on the basis of lobes, okay? On the basis of lobes, we have classified, and the first one, let's talk about the first one. First one is what is frontal lobe. This is the most important lobe because it is what is we refer all these things, this is what is we call is intelligence. All the intelligence, all the consciousness, that is what is coming from this frontal lobe, and this is denoted by red part in the diagram, okay? So look at this, some for example, like problem solving, emotional stress, reasoning, speaking, voluntary motor activities, right? These are all coming from frontal lobes. And let's talk about second one is this temporal lobe. Temporal is actually the inner beneath the inner, is inner side to the ear. It's also called temporal bone. And what does it do? What does it do is, what is temporal is the term temporal is actually the inside, not inside but the inner to the ear. What is referred as temporal, just the peripheral to the ear, okay? So might be peripheral to ear, so that region is what is temporal region, okay? That region is temporal region. And what you need to remember about this temporal lobe is just, it is used it is just there are also functions of understanding language, but we don't consider this one. But what actually important is hearing. If the question is framed, then it actually came from hearing. It says, it questions what is the function of temporal bony, and you should only remember hearing. Don't remember these things. They will just divert you, So also there is another one is parietal lobe. So parietal lobe is what is represented by this yellow part. This is what is parietal lobe. The main functions is, this is just limited to temperature, touch. Touch means sensory part. It more is senses thing. Just pain, taste, all these things. This is what is under the control of parietal lobe. And lastly, occipital lobe is given here. Both are important. It's vision and color functions. The back side of the head, and the posterior side. Okay. So lastly, let's talk about cerebellum. Cerebellum is what is what was its part? It is actually part of hindbrain, right? So let's discuss also the function of cerebellum. Cerebellum is actually very important organ in balancing. That's why drunkards lose control when they just consume alcohol. Why? Because it directly affects the cerebellum. Since the cerebellum functions balancing, so they can just balance themselves. and these also responsible for control and voluntary movements. Voluntary movements is actually the movements which you do, which you have control. For example, you can lift your hand, that's a voluntary movement, but you can heartbeat on your own, that's involuntary movement, because heart beats on its own, you don't have any control over it, so that's what is involuntary movement. And lastly, your final muscle groups. These three are important. Okay, so yeah, we're done about this central nervous system. This is what we are not going to discuss about spinal cord. Is it is not important uh, in this level. It's not important. You don't need to know about spinal cords. All you need to know is about the brain and the different parts. We discussed about everything and their functions. The functions are important. If the question is framed, it has maximum chance the questions are from the functions part. So we are done. We've done about neurons. We've done about how the impulse transfers, how the neurons are interconnected through there is junction over there. This is junctions, and the information or impulse just travel from one neuron to another neuron via neurotransmitters. I'm not going into details about these things, just remember the word. Okay, neurotransmitters. So I think this is almost covered everything that you need to know, and the corpus callosum is also important, remember it. Okay, I think I'm done here. Thank you so much for attending the lecture. Hope you guys liked it. Okay.